Yeah, good morning, everybody. And I'm happy to report it's yet another day in paradise. We're back with Law and Legitimacy. Freedom Lover beat Luttrell in the good morning race by about 2 seconds. Luttrell, normally you're the first person to say good morning. Good morning, Luttrell. But this morning, Freedom Lover beat you. So good morning, Freedom Lover. Welcome back to Law and Legitimacy. You know, we were thinking about turning the show over to an AI device today, but we decided not to. And the reason we decided not to is A, we weren't sure we would notice, and B, we weren't sure you would notice. And if we woke up one morning and concluded that AI could produce what we were producing as well or better than us, what would be the point of living? And why do I say that? Because there's yet another set of stories in the major press incident to another press conference about the existential risk of artificial intelligence. You'll recall a month or so ago, it could have been maybe 3 weeks, but not too long ago, we reported on a letter signed by about 1,000 AI researchers, intellectuals, entrepreneurs, and so forth, calling for a moratorium of 6 months on the development of artificial intelligence until such time as a consensus could be reached about how to assure that artificial intelligence, that is, machine learning devices, were aligned with our values. And until that point could come, there was a fear that AI could develop in a way that was inconsistent with human flourishing. Now, and I'm using terms that are terms of art within the AI community, alignment, human flourishing. These are terms that are not self-evident in their meaning. Well, I think what alignment means is, an AI device that does generative learning, that is set loose on big data and is given the freedom to detect patterns within it in ways that and when given the freedom, again, another anthropomorphic concept. It's not as though AI says, "Hi, mommy, hi, daddy, can I go out to play?" No. What happens is the algorithm, a device is created that permits it to detect patterns between random dots, between random pieces of data. And once the device detects patterns, it can point as a result of those patterns in certain directions or others. And this happens with respect to big data in ways that we don't even understand. Quantum computing, Neuralinks, these things give computing power the ability to produce results, to produce associations between seemingly random events that baffle or transcend the ability of any individual or group of individuals manually to do the same. And so we talked a little bit about this yesterday with respect to price theory in an efficient marketplace in Thomas Sowell's Basic Economics, or in price theory in general in economics, and raised the possibility that there could be an algorithmic world in which big data, the aggregation of machine learning devices, concluded that there was an efficient distribution of resources that was consistent with some vision of social utility, that could replace market freedom, that could place freedom in the market, that could do what Adam Smith said no individual or government could do, that is, make a determination of what the efficient allocation of resources would be. And this would be a planned economy. Maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. It's certainly a temptation, but buried within that algorithm would be a vision of human flourishing, and that's the contact point between human agency and machine learning. That's the notion of alignment. Whatever it is that a machine decides, and by whatever means it decides, it's going to make decisions based on some set of values. And the programmers are going to be putting the values in that program. And thus, the discussion of AI posing an existential risk, the need to have a moratorium, it carries with it the assertion that AI is becoming so complex, so powerful, that it's going to see things in our behavior that we don't understand, and it's going to control, sculpt, and manage our behaviors in ways that we may not tolerate. All of this begs the larger question, however, whether an AI device can acquire agency. That is a sense of significance within its own circuitry. There is a sense of what it means to be Mike Boyer. Thomas Nagel wrote a famous essay once about the sense of self. There is a sense of what it is to be a bat, what it is to be a bat moving through time and space, relying on its sonar to make calculations about which way to move. There is a sense in which there is an essence, and I don't mean to sound like an essentialist. Those of you who read philosophy a lot are going to be aware of that trap. But there is a sense in which there is something to being Mike Boyer. When I get on the air with him in the morning to talk, I know when he is in character. That is to say, I associate a set of attributes, responses, and personhood with Mike. And when I see him online in the morning, I bring my memory and my set of expectations of Mike-ness to Mike. And so most days he's Mike, and I'm Norm, and you're Luttrell, you're a freedom lover. And the sum of the relationships we have with one another constitutes our sense of self, our sense of community. And so anthropologists say, you can have a sense of self with maybe 100, 150 people. Beyond that, it all gets random. So the AI community is generating opportunities for us to choose one thing rather than another, to experience the world in ways that are different than we can on our own. And there is a fear among researchers that AI might get well beyond us, that it might somehow choose for us things that we might not choose for ourselves. That begs the question of AI and agency, and it begs the question, which is a moral, philosophical, and theological question, whether we are simply matters of mere complexity or whether we are, in effect, created entities. And as created entities, we bear something significant. That is, we're created in the image of God with that sense of ability to create something from nothing, seemingly through acts of will. I realize, we're way out there today, but we got to start somewhere. And so with respect to the fear of AI and human extinction, the claim seems to be that these devices are becoming so complex that they can now produce things by means that we don't understand, and that the production of those things is going to impose limits on us that may constrain our freedom and that may ultimately be inconsistent with our existence. And thus, the notion of aligning AI with human values, with assuring that the choices, options, and things that it produces and presents to us as options are consistent with our values. The famous thought experiment would be, what if you constructed a powerful artificial intelligence device to create paper clips, and you told it your job is to create as many paper clips as possible? And with its superior intelligence, it concluded from an economic perspective that the use of any resource in the world to do something other than create a paper clip was a waste. And therefore, it conscripted all of the world's energy sources and all of the world's material resources into the production of paper clips. And the universe thus then became a giant paperclip production factory. Where would there be room for humanity in that? Well, there wouldn't be, but there might be, because the AI isn't going to be able to produce its own energy unless, of course, it produces its own robots. And then we're sort of into Terminator sort of territory. So, I want to scale it back because I'm sort of out there at such a high level of abstraction that the conversation's going to lose traction with the news. The claim now, however, the claim a month ago was, and it was incident to all the chatter about ChatGPT-4 and its superior quality in ability to mine information and anticipate what it is that we wanted. And Mike and I openly speculated that when Sam Altman, the head of ChatGPT, didn't sign the letter 30 days ago, it could be that ChatGPT 5 was in the works. And we wondered whether the 6-month moratorium was meant to head off the distribution or the release of ChatGPT 5 into the world. Significantly, in yesterday's warning, Altman was involved. And I think Mike has a very interesting take on why he was. And it may be that Altman wasn't involved with Chat GPT as a potential threat, but he might be involved almost for the most venal of reasons, in a competitive marketplace, in forecasting a threat to artificial intelligence now, because Elon Musk just got FDA approval for human trials in Neuralink. Mike, explain to us what Musk got FDA approval for, and then let's advance the discussion from there.
Neuralink has been a company that he's been running with for quite a few years, and everyone knows Elon Musk is a serial entrepreneur. There's the Boring Company, which is the company that was looking to do underground travel, right? High-speed underground travel. Neuralink is sort of the computer-human interface technology that is essentially, at its essence, is I guess what is there's a field of thought here. Someone in the chat tell me, I can't remember what it's referred to as, but it's sort of augmentation of human biology as a philosophy. I can't remember there's
augmentation is the word. Yeah.
Well, but there's some transhumanism, I think, is what I'm reaching for there. And Neuralink certainly sets a foundation, I think, for that as sort of an operational philosophy or an operating system for all of humanity, right? Many of the technologies and devices developed that do something to bridge the natural human biology of the brain with some sort of external computer have been designed to remedy some sort of gap in either mental fitness or physical fitness. So those who have paralysis of some type of variety can remedy that to some degree by virtue of this glue between an external computer and natural brain activity. The same with ALS research and different things of that sort. The distinction that Neuralink represents from that field of study is that Elon Musk very clearly wants to broaden the bandwidth of what that is, of what that human machine interface ultimately becomes. And to me, my theory with respect to the absence of Sam Altman from the original letter calling for a moratorium on the development of AI, and his presence here calling for a recognition of some sort of existential threat to humanity on the back of AI development lies in this news that the Food and Drug Administration has approved Neuralink to conduct its first human trial. So up until this point, Neuralink has been developed by use of monkeys and certain other animals, right? And there's been plenty of pushback on, I guess, the ethics that are the foundation of that. But now we are moving into a new era of AI development and this transhumanist themed philosophy that I referenced at the beginning. My personal belief is that this is the answer to why someone like Sam Altman or any of the Google executives would be involved, because Neuralink is not doing something for the sake of a health-related gap filler. This is augmentation and enhancement in a very discretionary capacity. Now, there is a school of thought, and there are those proponents of Neuralink that would say that this is the only way that humans will be able to hedge off development of AI that develops external to humans and that represents that existential threat. I think there is some water there. But we still have to talk about what Elon Musk is doing more broadly. He's taken over. He paid $44 billion for something called Twitter. He's now converted that into the X Corp. He has outwardly talked about his desire to create the X app, the everything app. He is a free speech advocate, and he is integrating everything into this scrolling chronology of human consciousness. And now he has FDA approval on a device that will bridge the gap between external computer hardware and human biology.
So it's an interesting, I cut you off, Mike. It's an interesting thought experiment. I mean, somewhere some human is going to be given the ability to be networked into a machine, and the claim will be that by means of that external network, they will be able to experience a superior form of intelligence. Thus, a person who doesn't know how to do calculus will suddenly be a calculus whiz inchoately. Perhaps that's a learned skill. Perhaps it's not. It's unclear whether with whether Musk's experiment will increase the capacity to learn, or to see patterns or to see connections, whether it will rewire the mind or whether it will simply supplement the mind and permit a mind to do more quickly. I don't understand the technology well enough, but the notion that somehow, and there is a debate in the AI community about whether artificial intelligence can really be human intelligence unless it's embodied. And so one of the more exciting and interesting things about Musk's experiment is that the augmentation of human consciousness by access to artificial intelligence will give this artificial intelligence access to something that it can't have on its own, human embodiment. And so, suddenly, what springs to mind is as Michelangelo's painting on the roof of the Sistine Chapel, God reaching out to Adam in that one moment where the spark of life passed from one to the other. What will happen? Will this be a digital Frankenstein? Will we stand in awe of the monster we've created? Or in the alternative, will this person just simply be a better version of us?
Well, we're merely a decade removed from Google trying to lead the charge in this via Google Glass. Do you remember Google Glass as a technology? And that was a flaming disaster, a Hindenburg for imagery's purposes, because there was no way to create that merger. Right? It was still something sitting atop someone who could just simply take it off. I think that the question at the essence of all of this for Neuralink or any other competitor to Neuralink in the future is whether the host will have ultimate control of the digital infrastructure that will now reside within their synapses.
Well, I mean, what's frightening and terrifying about it to me is that, from an intrapsychic level, those of us who aren't linked to some external device, which is the human race right now, we have enough trouble understanding and intuiting the contours of our own experience. Freudian, I think I've made no secret of the fact, I engage in psychoanalysis 4 days a week before Law and Legitimacy. For 15 years, I've been pummeling the depths of whatever it is that makes me me. And I have no better idea today what that is than I did when I started 15 years ago. I am aware that I am the sum of desires, impressions, experiences, many of which come unbidden. And that to the degree that I can control them, harness them, and push them in the directions that I so optimally say choose, I become a more effective and better person. But I'm doing that just with the bandwidth I was born with. Zap me up, supercharge me. And, will you make me a more creative person, or will you make me a more confused person? Because the resources to which...
question. I don't want us to go, but I mean, it seems very egalitarian in essence as well, right? Because I think about the highest achieving humans in at least American society. I think that we could probably categorize them as doing a select list of things repeatedly, consistently, and at a high level. And it's discipline, control over their emotions, consistency and reliability, and then a deep vigor for understanding subject matter. I'm just interested in what Neuralink's interface would really look like in front of someone's eyes.
I think I want to see that. I want to see that
out in the world, and perhaps they get readings as to certain levels of their emotive response. Right? Hey, your blood pressure has increased like this. You're starting to feel this way. This is it. And does it give the average person who has not learned themselves a dashboard to understand certain biological processes that might inform decision making based on their stimuli? And does that present an opportunity to even the playing field, or will people just not give a shit ultimately?
Well, and that's just assuming that all it does is it give us access to data points rather than give us access to the connection between points. Hey, live on the chat on Rumble. Good morning, Freedom Lover. Good morning, Bathtub Liquor. Good morning, In the Cloud. Good morning, T Girl. And photography's blowing us up on Rumble today with
I love
comments.
this. Yeah, photography. Thank you for your input here. We're not ignoring it. I love this comment. However, Neuralink is the real world development of what Neo experienced in the Matrix when he learned how to fly a helicopter, the same way Star Trek communicators are now iPhones. Again, my question comes down to the discretion that one will wield over that technology. right? We
Here's
talk.
another comment from photography. Photography turns out to be the most interesting person of the day. We should get you on here. It's what they will think, not what they view. And that does create an interesting image. Because when we describe our thoughts to one another, we often resort to turns of speech by saying, "Well, I see this," but you're not seeing something in the same way that you see something when you look out the window. I see a tree right now, for example. But when I say I see something as I think it, it means that I understand it. And that understanding it means that I somehow have the ability to comprehend relationships, how they're formed, and what can be done with those relationships. I wonder how they're going to select the subject for Neuralink. Many years ago, I was briefly on the Yale Human Factors Committee. It was a group at the Yale Medical School that evaluated proposals to use human subjects in research. I'm not sure how I got selected to be on there. Maybe they wanted to zap me. I don't know. I didn't do it for long. It was pretty depressing. I was asked by a federal judge to do it. I went because she asked, and it seemed flattering. I went to meetings for about a year, and I thought, I have no freaking idea what I'm doing here. I'd rather go out and represent people accused of crimes. So I did. But I am aware of the fact that someone is going to be taking a huge risk. Someone is going to go to get their circuitry tuned up to a degree that they're going to be capable of comprehending perhaps
Some
more.
very Iron Man-esque stuff going on, right?
Yeah, more than anyone else. And what will they do with that understanding? I mean, this augmentation and existential risk to humanity strikes me as a more likely thing to worry about than worrying about hell arriving one day by way of a spaceship. And it may be that we're all frogs slowly cooking in that pot, the heat of which is increasing, and we won't know we're done until we're cooked, because we're already surrounded by algorithms, in our Google search terms, with respect to Amazon's recommendations, social utility scoring. We're tracked, as Shoshana Zuboff pointed out, by way of our social media interactions. We live in news silos where what we see is selected for us by algorithms we don't understand. And so now we're going to take the human thing, the human form, and we're going to attach it to a device that presumably enhances its ability to understand. What's it going to know? What is it going to understand the nature and destiny of man? Somehow I doubt it.
I doubt it's going to care. I think that what I was just considering while you were talking, you made me think that perhaps the extinction being referenced here isn't necessarily a machine versus human, but rather that biology is the natural host architecture for AI to be implemented. And perhaps that the biggest question that the elites are looking to answer here is, how can we guarantee obedience of a supercharged population of billions?
Or what do we do with the one individual who understands us better than we understand ourselves? Do we submit to him? Does this person become the algorithm that we fear? The person with enough intelligence to design and plan the economy? And then what do we do with what Philip Roth calls the human stain, or what Cormac McCarthy, calls the only thing we're really sure about ourselves, and that is that we're flawed. We can make a more supercharged version of ourselves, but what if we really are villains? What if we really are marred by the capacity to sin and the overall temptation to love the wrong thing? One of the reasons people criticize the wealthy, and I think this comes through in some of photography's many comments today, is that they are not constrained by the ordinary workaday constraints or imposed by poverty or privation. And so they have the ability to choose. And if you look at a concept like Maslow's hierarchy, the hierarchy of needs, the basics one being for food and shelter. And then once you've satisfied all the basic needs, you can choose self-realization. Are we going to create an intelligence that's so vast that it's relieved from the ordinary cares of humankind? And is it going to care only for its own self-realization and regard the rest of us as means, not ends? I think that the reason Mike and I are lingering on this so long, and I don't know that we intended to do this.
My mind is working on it. Yeah.
But it's just such a massive, mind-blowing concept. It seems to me that when we create this super intelligent Frankenstein that has the ability to conceive of ends for itself and to manipulate us all as means to its own end, we've created tyranny. And the danger is that if it gives us enough security, we won't care. What is it? The World
Well,
Economic Forum and Klaus
I
Schwab says you will own nothing and you'll be happy.
well, and look, I don't know that Klaus Schwab, if Klaus Schwab just omitted a reference to this human computer interface that will be the glue in securing that proposition, well, then perhaps he's got a much more persuasive argument. I want to recognize in the clouds comment here over on Rumble a malfunction that sends a bad signal to the vagus nerve, not a risk I want to take. But the possibilities fascinate me as someone who recently lost a loved one to Parkinson's disease.
No, we are opening up. We are open. It is a brave new world, and I guess it's arrived. And so the AI community is warning us.
But let me end on this. This is why I think I'm fascinated here, because we continue to ask this question about the tyranny of our own desires, right? Love of the wrong thing. And to do so seems innately human to me at this point. And I think that that's exactly what St. Augustine was perhaps referencing. But in the scenario that there is an external force that will moderate cognition, it's not a leap to say that we have pharmaceutical products on the market now that can control impulses of varying degrees.
But they deaden, they don't enhance.
And I'm not saying that this is going to be used primarily as an enhancement. I'm saying that obedience is the central thesis for elites looking to scale something like this, because the only way to centrally plan an economy is to create the perfectly competitive market conditions of information, price makers, price takers, right? Logical leaps, right? In terms of consumer habits, all of the things that we can learn by reading the basic texts that are already here. And by the way, didn't come by way of a computer. It's as if we are trying to write an algorithm to supplant discretion and suboptimal decisions such that we can better aggregate resources for the globe. That seems that's the most obvious to me, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's right, and it to my mind, it reinforces the importance of the classics. It reinforces because the age-old problems of philosophy, of human flourishing, of how to make a community out of a random assortment of individuals, these problems never go away. And as long as there are individuals who crave significance, and I think that as we've said any number of times on this show before, that's the point of all dystopian literature: is the protagonist's demand for significance in the face of satisfaction. And we would all choose significance in our own skin over satisfaction, the novelists believe, if we really thought about it. And so this moment might present an existential crisis, not for humanity, but for our vision of humanity. Will we choose significance rather than comfort or ease? And will the significance be truly creative, or will it be, or will we just become widgets in a larger machine? As photography puts it, everything gets reinterpreted. Will we come to experience ourselves as simply ants in the hive, and the hive mind something greater? Is something that no one of us possesses, but so long as we march in the direction in which we are impelled, everything turns out well in the end. Those who have argued, against the notion of free will, that somehow we are simply impulse-driven things, and when looked at from a certain vantage point aren't free at all, may have the last laugh on this. It may be that the AI device is able to discern the darker, deeper, hidden patterns that motivate us all, and construct a society that appeals more efficiently on a global level to those impulses in a price perfect way, in terms of price theory. Terrifying stuff.
Are uplifting propositions, I think, things that we would want society to strive for on the other side of this. But as we all know, the devil is in the details. And in this case, it seems as though the devil is quite literally in the details. There are two other stories, Norm, that we wanted to get to this morning. One was Nick Saban being quoted about the unionization of college athletes to preserve parity in college sports. And this is on the back of name, image, and likeness concerns of college athletes and state by state disparate regulations over one's ability to monetize those things, think high school athletics and stuff like that. Then we also had a story from the Carolina Journal out of New Bern, North Carolina, which is down by the coast. There's a private religious school there, primary school, that has begun putting up fencing, has taken down all sorts of signage and indicia that it is a school from the outside. They've had a sheriff walk through and give them a sort of a consult on security concerns. And this is all comes on the back of what happened after Nashville. Recall, we still do not have the motive for the shooting on the record. We don't have that piece of writing that Audrey Hale left for us. And that is a huge open question. There were 152 bullets discharged by Audrey Hale during that shooting. And there are primary institutions. And in North Carolina, this has been a battleground. Remember, Norm, we've talked about the voucher program. So certain institutions like the one out of New Bern portends to actually have more resources to draw from for its students on the back of that legislation, but it couldn't have come at a more tense time in their history. So lots that we can kind of get back to, I think, tomorrow and Friday.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, folks. I mean, we just went down the AI rabbit hole and the possibilities and what it means in terms of augmentation of our ability to comprehend the world and what it means for our social institutions and our relationship between one another is a topic that I hope you found interesting enough to stick with us on for the half an hour that we devoted to it. We'll spend more time on it in the weeks and months to come. Elon Musk is up to something. I'm surprised the FDA. I'd like to know more about the FDA approval process and just what it is that they're up to. And boy, to be on the committee that screens the individual to decide to get plugged in, what's he going to see or she? And once he or she sees it, can he or she unsee it? And what will be the effect on that individual? What will be the effect on the rest of us when that individual tells us about it and perhaps tells us what to do about it? Thanks for listening to Law and Legitimacy, folks. It's been a pleasure this morning. My mind is spinning. I hope yours is too. It's a crazy world out there, and we're trying to do our best to lay down some breadcrumbs for you to find the light of reason in a dark, dark, dark place.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great day. In the cloud over on Rumble. Thank you for your input, and thank you everyone else for being here. T-Girl, Lawyer Will, BTL, Freedom Lover, Aperture of My Soul. Glad to see you all over on YouTube. Photography, thank you for your presence today, as well as Freedom Lover. Thank you very much for your input. We greatly appreciate that. As always, you can find us after these streams over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Overcast, etc. But we're here every day, 8 a.m. We're live on Twitter, so please consider retweeting and following us there at Pattis Podcast. We're also on YouTube Live. That's how many of the people in the chats comments get seen here. And if Rumble would get their stuff together, we would be able to merge the comments from.
I'm not so worried about Rumble anymore. I mean, we go up and down on Rumble, and I'm starting to think maybe we don't fit here. Rumble. I mean, if we're not
still where most of our viewers come from, Norm. So
we fit. Never mind.
It's where most of our viewers come from. I do think that StreamYard needs to make a play to have a Rumble plugin. So that's just a negotiation that needs to happen. I know the CEO of Rumble is just really I guess trying to poach live streaming gamers from various platforms like Twitch and YouTube to promote over on Rumble, but I think the infrastructure needs more attention, and I'll remain that way. Anyway, we will see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Norm, this has been a really good way to open the morning up. Thank you for indulging me, but let's continue talking about this. I think it's something our viewers really enjoy.
Yeah, I enjoy it too. Thanks.
All right.
See you tomorrow, folks.
Morning.